you? How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Wow, look at that background. I love that.
Oh yeah.
That's beautiful. Look at your
Uh,
your education, your
yeah,
award.
those are my kids and mine. Yeah.
Beautiful. And by the way, happy birthday to your daughter.
Thank you. Yeah, we're gonna celebrate tonight. She's old. She's 30 today.
Yeah. Well, I won't tell you how old my oldest is, but
Oh my goodness.
just leave it at that. But Gina, I want to thank you for agreeing to participate in this. It means so much to the younger the youngsters, the early career, the college students, the folks that are coming up, behind us, the ones that will take the baton from us, so to speak.
Yeah.
And when Ali told me that you were willing to participate, I was thrilled, and I really appreciate your time.
Oh
Thank you.
yeah, no problem. I'm excited to support.
Thank you so much. Gina, do you want to start out by introducing yourself a little bit, or?
Oh, is there other people online or
Oh no, just you.
oh
But I mean, for the video, uh,
oh okay.
I'm
Oh,
recording you. I'm recording this, so.
got it. Okay, so Gina Woullard, I'm the Vice President of Manufacturing Affordability within the operations function at Northrop Grumman. So I've been in aerospace 36 years. I started off as a mechanic. I was a mechanic for 8 years and then went to school and then took on expanded scopes of responsibility after I received my degree. So I worked at Boeing for 16 years, and in September, I will have been at Northrop 20 years.
Oh my gosh, that's
I
hard to
know.
believe.
Can
I
you
can't
believe
believe
that?
you've been moved on that
Been that
long.
long. I know.
Wow. So
Flies.
so so 20 years ago was when you left Boeing, roughly.
Yeah,
Um,
2004.
yeah,
Hmm.
and I know you had a great career there. That's where you and I worked together, and
Yes.
and your husband Don as well.
Yes.
Um, so if I can, just from the beginning, I don't know if you saw some of the potential questions we could be talking about, but the first question I had for you was, how did you decide on a career in aerospace and operations?
Well, if I were being honest, at the time in 19, I think it was 87, McDonnell Douglas at the time was hiring. I believe they were an increasing rate on the MD 80 90 assembly line. They were starting the MD 11 production line, and then the C-17 was getting started. So they had this mass hiring need, and there was an opportunity to go to a trade school in Los Angeles. And if you completed a project successfully, you had a high probability of being hired as a structures mechanic. So there were people with no experience, and there were a lot of military veterans. And no, aerospace was not a career I was thinking of. I really wanted to go to Hollywood and be, superstar. I was a dancer at the time, but I needed a good paying job. And a couple of my friends had already been hired. So word on the street was it was a good paying job, and it was a job, not a career at that time. And so I did the class and got hired. And so that introduced me to aerospace. So there were no aspirations prior to that. But once I started, it was exciting. We started to see people grow in their career, taking on more expanded scopes of responsibility, the technical elements of the work we were doing and the capabilities we were providing to our customers, whether it was commercial or military, really became a passion of mine. And so I decided to stick with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was similar too. I didn't think I would ever have a career in aerospace, but a
Yeah.
neighbor said, "Hey, they're hiring." So
Exactly.
I said, my dad works there. Maybe there's a chance I can get my foot in the door.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's wonderful. Um, so you talked about going to school a little bit, about how you got your foot in the door. Can you elaborate on your education? And I know you've had a lot of education. and hopefully the company helped you pay for that along the way. I would
Yeah.
hope.
I think when, I didn't go to college out of high school, even though that was my plan. I needed a gap year. I don't think they called it gap years then. I wanted to run the street and be
Yes.
I didn't want to be told what to do, so I needed to get a job to move out. But
Yes.
when I was a couple of years into my job at McDonnell Douglas, they were talking layoffs, and I was like, wow, where would I qualify to get a job to make the money I was making without an education? So there was a program at West LA City College, and it was an accelerated program that fed into Pepperdine University. So it was called a PACE program. And so you would take 15-week classes in 8 weeks, and you could be a full employee, and then you would matriculate into Pepperdine and finish your last 2 years with a bachelor's degree in business management. So I took that path. So as I was a mechanic, I was going to school and finished my degree. And as soon as I finished, I got in a career advancement program, um, which was really for early in career. Well, they were actually new college hires. And I think myself and another McDonnell Douglas employee were the internal hires. So we had experience, and we combined, and we got to rotate through different functions within operations. And then I became a frontline manager on the floor. And then later, I knew I wanted to get promoted. So I needed to get a master's degree. And at that time, we were Boeing. And so they paid 100% tuition reimbursement. So I went to the University of Redlands. And then in 2017, there was a program at USC while I was here at Northrop, and it was for global supply chain management, a master in global supply chain management. And so I decided to go ahead and get another master's in that area, which really helped me in the role I was in at the time.
Well, it's fascinating because you've hit the three areas that we're trying to encourage for these youngsters.
Yeah.
Is it okay to say youngsters?
I don't know how they feel about it, but they are.
They are. They're young.
To us.
But so you touched on operations, you touched on manufacturing, you touched on supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the areas we're trying to encourage, because those jobs, well, generally they pay pretty well, as you
Yeah.
know, and I know.
Yeah.
But what can you tell the college students that are thinking, well, I just want to work at Google, or I want to go, like you want to go to Hollywood, or they want to be superstars or whatever. Can you give them something that you took away from your career thus far of why it was so exciting for you to be involved in those areas, in those disciplines?
Yeah, from a manufacturing perspective, of course, the technical element. But as I became a leader and got exposed to contracts, contract negotiations, international sales, when we were trying to partner with international customers to bring our products to them to offset the cost domestically, supply chain became a fascination because we fabricate internally. And 70% of the products we build and many of our larger platforms, we procure parts. And when you think about COVID and not being able to, not even have people come to work to fabricate those parts, to transport them because of highway restrictions or locations and logistics, it just gets fascinating. And it's a scope that applies in everything we do, right? When you see those shipping containers and you see products and we weren't able to get toilet paper and tissues, it's a direct correlation to even what we do. And when we were here during COVID, we couldn't get masks. Well, the public couldn't get masks, right? And we needed to protect ourselves, our employees. So those topics tend to blend into other elements that expand beyond the end product. I also had a stint in mission assurance. So I was in quality about 7 years, and working with our customer partners on initiatives, trying to make sure that we were compliant to our contracts, and also uh, that the quality that we put into the products, provided the capabilities to our customers without them having downtimes or rework and repair, also became fascinating. So, um, I started, like I said, as a mechanic. It was a job, but to see all the different elements that you can go into: business management, contracts, negotiations, mission assurance, engineering. There's just so many elements that blend into this industry.
Yes, yes. And
And you
Gina,
can make videos while you're here. So if you want to be a star, just get in a company video.
yes, yes. Well, Gina, you've had an amazing career between McDonnell Douglas and Northrop Grumman, and you've come a long ways.
Yeah, yeah,
You, you've done so well. Now, so think about this. You got your foot in on the shop floor working in
Mm-hmm.
manufacturing, and
Mm-hmm.
now you're a vice president. So uh, that's just such an example to the I'll say youngsters, the college
Yeah.
students, the people that are coming in, and you're a woman and a
Mm-hmm.
woman of color,
Mm-hmm.
and you've done extremely well. Can you touch on that a little bit about how you probably had challenges along the way. You probably had to
Absolutely.
fight some things.
Yeah.
Do you want to share any of that about your career and how, some of the things that you've been through?
Yeah, it was very difficult because when I started, and even today, when I look at the demographic of the personnel here, there's not a lot of females in STEM roles or even on the shop floor. So when you don't have anyone that looks like you don't assume that the opportunities are available to you, right?
Right.
But I've been fortunate where I've had even my peers when I was on the floor push me harder, because they clearly believed I had some kind of potential to help keep me engaged and achieve outcomes that would propel me into more expanded roles of responsibility. And every step has been challenging, and the challenge doesn't end even as a vice president. And so education was important, demonstrated performance was important, having a right network and support system, because your peers, really define and shape your reputation. So being credible, and helping other people grow is essential. There's still doubt, when a woman comes in the room, there's, a cloud of doubt. And, compared to my male counterparts, the assumption is they can make it happen. And they're like, oh, what's she going to come with? So you got to work a little harder. And then I had 4 kids. So that also was a challenge, because when I started, it was you had to be committed to work, not be a parent. So work-life balance didn't, really exist. And most of my leaders sacrificed their personal lives for the companies that they work for. But fortunately, I didn't have leaders that, wanted to perpetuate that with me. They wanted to make sure I knew family was first. So I was able to be present. So my kids don't call me Gina, they call me mom. And I was able to, do both. It wasn't easy, but I wanted both, aspects. I wanted a career and I wanted to be a parent. So yeah, it was still is a challenge, but I was able to survive. But I had a good support system. Yeah.
Gina, I have a memory one time you were speaking at a group there
Uh-huh.
in Long Beach on the C-17 program, and the people in the audience, your employees and other people, your peers, it was obvious that they loved you.
Yeah.
So, can you talk about your relationship with people, and how that has been like maybe a cornerstone in your career?
Yeah, I would say I wouldn't be here but for those relationships. So
Mhm.
as being a manager, I remember I was on C-17, I was a senior manager, and I created these board of directors. So they were my hourly leads, and I would have them in the meetings with me to decide on developing strategies to accelerate our execution. Because as you recall, we were going up in rate. We were trying to go to 17 a year. And where I was working in the wing half joint, it was very difficult. We had high turnover of personnel because we had the fuel tank work, right? And so, and then we were in a union environment, and you're very restricted to the lanes that you can, people can work within. But, the relationship of coming from the floor, demonstrating that I represented them, including them in the decision making. And then we had a lot of fun. And a lot of our leads evolved and became, senior leaders. One even became a director. And I know people never thought he would, evolve to that level. So, it was taking advantage of the insights that they had, because they were really the influencers and the needle movers, and, representing them in the, leadership meetings, highlighting their successes, and then augmenting their professional growth, I think made a difference, because we wouldn't make it without our people. And that's been, foundational to my success even here at Northrop.
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. I always felt the same way. Looking back on my career, I didn't go as far as you, but I had a good long career with McDonnell Douglas and Boeing. And I think that was a cornerstone for me. I wanted to ask you, could you touch on some highlights of your career, some achievements that you had? Because I know you've had, and I know you've had many. You don't have to go over them all, but can you touch on a couple of those, or some specific?
I think one of the ones that, really is close to my heart, that has really given me the courage to think I can move on to more senior roles, was C-17 in the wing IPT, because we were faced with many challenges. As you know, the customer didn't have a lot of confidence in us early on in the career. It was 40 and no more. And work culture was critical to be able to overcome all the technical challenges that we had, schedule pressures, and then any enhancements we made to the systems to extend the range or lightning strike, things like that. And really to get people to buy in, because they were senior, and what's in it for them. And towards the end, before I left, the challenge was, how do we extend the program? Because we knew we were coming to an end. If we didn't get the foreign military sales domestically, the government didn't have that budget to fund the platform, because they wanted to move on to other things. So, being able to encourage the team and develop a capability where we were beating all of our key performance indicators was crazy, because none of us thought that could happen. And the people, as it started to migrate through the different cost centers, how, historically teams never made their budgets, and they delivered, travel work, and then they stopped doing it, and how it became so infectious that as a collective, we were extremely successful and sustained it. I think we went from 56% efficiency all up to over 100. It was just unheard of. And we sustained it even after I left. That to me was one of the most significant achievements. And then when I came to Northrop Grumman, I was on the F-18 line, and ironically, Boeing was the prime, right? So I'm on this program, and they put me in the worst, area on the program. We had travel work, we had bad attitudes. Boeing was coming, and, they had these onboarding parties to tell us how bad we were, and being able to turn it around. And we reduced our costs significantly, where the program we thought was going to end, we actually had an extended and a higher rate requirement. Till this day, it's still going. And I remember in 2005, we thought it was going to be over. So those are the kind of accomplishments that mean a lot, being able to affect performance, but, people being able to expand their careers, because people want to start and end at one place where they used to. And being a part of that dynamic means a lot to me.
That's really a testament to something you did. If the changes and the gains were able to hold, that meant that you were actually making, real changes
Yeah.
that would last. That's amazing. I know
Yeah.
now at Boeing, I just left. It's been just a few months ago, but one of the things they would talk about is inculcate quality. And I had to look that word up. What does that
Yeah.
mean?
What does that
Inculcate.
mean?
It means to make, to get it embedded, to embed
Yeah.
that quality into the culture. And it's the
Yeah.
same thing with what you did with making those improvements. They stayed, and that's amazing.
Well, see,
That means you really
know,
made changes.
where we work together, I think of Betty Kavanaugh and
Yes.
Chris. Actually, Don saw Chris because he was working for Boeing. He came to F-18 a couple of years ago, but they were inspectors that were coaches and mentors. So when I was a mechanic and I was building the product, they wanted me to build first time quality. So they took the time to make sure I understood my process specs, the engineering requirements, and had the capability to achieve the outcomes we needed, right? Because I used to
Yes.
get mad at QA for rejecting my work, like, you're picking on me. It wasn't that I didn't build it right. It was like, you don't know how to inspect it. But, they were the types that shifted that paradigm, and we achieved that on C-17 and we achieved it here on F-18. Quality was fundamental to our success, because we had to achieve certain financial outcomes and we couldn't unless we built first time quality. So, our technicians took pride in having, units go out the door and they didn't have any escapes, or even internally to the next cost center. So that is critical to success. And that's what we try to continue to preach here. I've been a big advocate on training and first inspector, that the technician is truly the first inspector, and that's yielded really good outcomes, especially on our newer platforms. And we have a very early in career demographic, so we don't have time to wait for them to, work 20 years and figure it out. They need to know it now. So we try to enhance their learning to make sure that they understand what they need to do and they have the capability to do it right the
That's
first.
super. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
You talked about inspectors being part of the team, and I remember that culture change we went through where QA or quality assurance became part of the team, and that
Yes.
we started doing what we called in-process inspections.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we were embedded, and they were working as part of the team instead of
Right.
sitting in the corner waiting for the
Waiting on
work
a
to get
call.
done. Yes,
Exactly. To
yes,
reject it. Catch me while I'm doing it now before it's, further advanced in the assembly build. So that
yes,
really, makes a difference, and it makes people more prideful, because they have somebody who's trying to help them be successful, rather than coming on the end and saying, no, you didn't get it right. It's just that
yes,
social element that drives emotions, right?
yes,
So yeah, it makes a big difference.
yes, yes. Uh, Gina, I wanted to we're getting down to kind of the last part of our chat. And
Mhm.
what I wanted to ask you was, um, given where we are now, we've come a long way in our careers. You've come
Mhm.
a long, long ways. What recommendations would you make for these college students that are thinking about the future, thinking about where they're going to go, how they're going to finish their education, and what they're looking forward to in their careers? Can you give some advice?
Yeah, I would say, definitely network, be open to learning, because learning never ends. Every day you learn something new. Don't be offended by criticism, because those challenges just help you evolve. Always hang by the mean person. The mean person is probably the most knowledgeable person. So the one that doesn't want you hanging around might be the person that has the most wealth of knowledge. But while you're young and if you have the opportunity, really explore different opportunities, because I would say we kind of stayed in a lane because there weren't as many opportunities when we were coming up as it is today. But really challenge yourself and then do things that you're scared to do. Don't get too comfortable. um, you learn from being uncomfortable, and you'd be surprised at how many people will help you overcome the obstacles of what you don't know compared to what you need to know. That's what I would advise, but always continue to get your education. It's very important. And today's curriculum really tries to apply real world scenarios. You're not just reading a book and learning concepts, but you're given the tools to apply those concepts in real world environments. And so that gives you an advantage compared to what we had. I mean, I had to go to the library, do the decimal system, look it up. You got Professor Google. So you can find out anything on the internet, which gives you an advantage of when you step into a professional environment to be successful. Yeah.
Yes, yes, that sounds great. And
Mhm.
and just one other thing I wanted to ask you, do you, as an executive, which you are, do you have people that that mentor you, or people that you reach out to for advice and help with your continuing career?
Absolutely. And believe it or not, they're my peers or subordinates. So a lot of times people look up for leadership, insight, or maybe it's brown nosing. But I mean, if it was someone, an executive mentor, of course, you're looking for someone who's going to have the characteristics or the experiences you want to explore or you want to expand on. But where I found the best gift of insight has been with peers and subordinates, because they see the world from a different perspective. They're more raw in their insights and transparency. Sometimes, when you're with an executive, it could be more politically, a conversation that's kind of bland, um, where other people might have more skin in the game. So they'll be more transparent to give you the insights you need to either fill the gap or continue in the areas of your strength, because they're watching you from a different lens.
Yes, yes,
So,
that's excellent advice. You
yeah,
know what, Gina, I have one more question for you, and this is
yeah,
something that's really like current event type thing. And
yeah.
but you, with your vast experience and the level you are, you might be able to shed a little bit of light on it. Given what's going on with aerospace right now, and
Mhm.
everyone's worried about flying, they keep hearing that Boeing has a quality issue. Can you address that for a minute? Can you spend a few minutes to talk about that?
Absolutely. I think the media can spiral a narrative. But being in aerospace at two major companies, I will tell you the internal controls preclude risk from being high. Um, we have our internal processes, as you're performing a task, someone surveils that task and accepts it or rejects it. We also have independent reviews, right? Even internal to the corporation. So you'll have a internal review, and then you have third party reviews. And if you're, certified to quality standards, you have to meet certain criteria to hold those certifications at the enterprise level. So yes, we have technical escapes, but we have ways to, remedy those. Um, because as you use a product, whether it's a car, whether it's an appliance, you have discoveries, and you go and you correct those discoveries. And as you build those new units and flow, you apply those changes. Or if you have an existing asset that's been deployed, you bring it back and make those upgrades, right?
Yes.
So it's just been a series of unfortunate events. But I don't question the quality culture or the controls that are in place. We can always be better, right? Uh, Perfection costs a lot of money. And so, when you look at what you need, there's a lot of elements that contribute to those outcomes. And it's not as simple as a person missing something. It's the things in place, the infrastructure, the planning, the engineering, all of that ties into it. So, and we have systems that when you have those escapes, you address them and you look within and try to prevent them from repeating themselves.
Yeah,
So
I would say some of the issues that have been found are probably due to maintenance or lack
yeah,
of.
yeah, because I mean, but we own it, right? So if you're the
Yes, yes.
prime and you sell a capability to a customer, no matter who you subcontract to or whatever happens to who you hand it off to, the perception is it's you,
Yes,
right?
yes,
And that's the good and the bad that comes with having that, you know, level of influence in these industries. And you got to be prepared to take it and address it. No matter who you handed it off to, we can still lend a hand and help them out, right? Because
yes.
it's still
Amen.
the product that represents our reputation.
Yes,
And, you know, people are going to think what they want. And only those that are intimately involved know, you know, who really owns it. It's just like in our supply chains, right? We pay them, our sub-tier suppliers to, you know, provide a service. And when they escape something to us, if it escapes to the customers, we still own it, no matter where it originated from. So that comes, you know, with
yes,
the big
yes,
kid on the block, right?
yes, yep. Big blue Boeing, right? Or
Yep.
North, in your
Or
case,
Northrop.
Northrop. Yes,
Absolutely. Yep.
yes. So Gina, any closing thoughts from you for the kids that are coming up?
Yeah, I would just say, you know, like me and even you never know what embarking on a career like this could evolve into, and never underestimate the opportunities. And you know, just starting off by going to school and committing to your own education and professional development, having the tools is a great way to start out. Because I kind of went backwards. I went into the industry and then had to go back to school, and that was kind of hard trying to earn an income and get an education. So they're already starting on the right foot. But it's a great industry to be a part of that could evolve into other areas of interest that may not seem evident at the time while you're sitting in a classroom.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, Gina, I can't thank you enough for all your support on this. Really appreciate your time. And if you can talk Don into doing it as well, I'd appreciate
Yeah,
it. Or if
I
he's
will.
interested.
He is. He's retired, so I got to get on his schedule.
Okay, okay.
But I am sure he would love to talk about his career and give some advice.
Oh, super,
Absolutely. Yep.
super. And I don't know if I have your email, but I might reach
I'll
out to
text it to you. I'll
you.
send it
Okay,
to you.
okay,
Yep.
cool. And then
All right.
I'll send you a copy of the video.
Okay.
Gina,
Sounds good.
thank you again
Thank
so
you.
much. And you're looking
Good here.
wonderful.
Thank you,
You're
Tim.
looking more youthful all the time.
Yeah, stress is good for me. So much, Tim. It
Yes,
was
so
good
nice to
talking
talk
to
to
you.
you.
All right. Take care.
You
Have a good
too.
weekend.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye now.